A question has been put to me, a question that I am told someone has traveled 2,000 miles to ask. And perhaps, as we observed together, it has been a 2,000-year journey. Because this anxiety, this human difficulty, is certainly not new. You have come to ask about the fact of homosexuality, pointing out that for centuries teachers and authorities have avoided this inquiry, and you have asked me to put some light on it. It is a question that weighs on many minds, and I see the sincerity in it, the need to understand. But before we can put light on anything, we must be willing to look at what is, and I am not sure we are willing to do that. We are not here, you and I, to take sides in this matter. It is not my purpose to condemn it, nor is it to approve of it, because approval is just the other side of the coin of disapproval. Both are judgments, both are a way of avoiding the fact itself. And this is a fact, is it not? In the same way that heterosexuality is a fact, this also exists in the world. It has been parts of human existence for thousands and thousands of years, sometimes common, sometimes hidden, but always present. So I must ask you, what is the question precisely? Why have we, as human beings, made this into such an enormous, complex problem? It is strange, isn't it, that we generally do not make heterosexuality a problem at all. We simply call it normal, but we have isolated this other fact and turned it into something that requires endless analysis, judgment, and fear. Why? Is it because it challenges our traditions, our sacred books, our sense of a comfortable, orderly society? We must inquire into this, but should we inquire into heterosexuality and homosexuality as two different things? Or should we perhaps set aside these labels, which are merely words, and inquire into the entire field of sexuality itself and why it has come to occupy such a colossally important, all-consuming place in our lives? This seems to me to be the real, the much deeper question. Why has this one thing become the central obsession of our culture? You only have to look around you. It is no longer just in the magazines or on the television screens as it was when I first began speaking of this. It is now in the palm of your hand every second of the day. It is in the endless scroll of images, in the music, in the advertisements, in the way you are told to build your personal brand, to express yourself. Every bestseller, every popular film, every streaming series has this element woven into its very fabric, often in meticulous graphic detail. I do not have to tell you this. You are living in it. This energy, this drive is constantly being emphasized, studied, and encouraged. Why? Why have human beings throughout the ages given such extraordinary importance to this one act? Let us look at it together. What happens if you are deprived of it? You feel, or you are told to feel, that something terrible has happened to you, that you are incomplete, neurotic, that you are missing out on the essential experience of life. The psychologists, the experts, the therapists, they all have dozens of explanations for why you must fulfill this, why it is essential for your well-being. And the mothers and fathers, they grow anxious, don't they, if their son or daughter doesn't have a boyfriend or girlfriend by a certain age. This is the world we have built, especially in the modern West, though it is spreading everywhere. In more traditional countries like India, the pattern is different, but the obsession is the same. They may say, wait, control it, wait until marriage, but it is still the central, simmering focus. So, seeing all this, what does one learn? I'm not asking what moral position you should take, that is meaningless. I am not talking about celibacy versus indulgence. I am asking, what do you learn from observing this vast global obsession? And what has been the other reaction to it? The religious reaction for thousands of years. The major religions, Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, have all said in their own ways, if you want to find God, if you want to reach the sublime, you must be a celibate. You must control this, deny it, suppress it. And so millions of human beings have taken vows of celibacy. They join monasteries, they become monks, they become sannyasis, the wandering ascetics in India, and they go through absolute living torture with this. I have talked to many of them, so many, over the long years. They are in a state of perpetual inward battle. They have taken a vow, you see, a promise to God, an idea, and so they must stick to it. But I do not know why they take the vow in the first place, because it is an attempt to bind life, to control the future, which is impossible. And so inwardly, psychologically, the glands, the biology, the human organism is all functioning, and they have a terrible, terrible time. They go through hell. Religion has done this to them. And one must ask, why? Why has humanity invented this idea that to achieve the most sublime, you must first torture yourself? That you must go through these agonies of suppression, and then you will be nearer God. It all seems so extraordinarily childish, doesn't it? It is a form of bargain, a primitive transaction with the heavens. I have met many of these monks and sannyasis, and I will not go into all the details, but they have tortured themselves in every conceivable way. This is because the popular accepted opinion is that to reach the highest, you must live a life of absolute abstinence. And this means that we, as human beings, have never, ever understood what austerity is. We have confused it with brutality, with self-mutilation. May we go into that. Are you interested in this? Because we must look at both sides of this trap, the trap of endless indulgence, which the modern world encourages, and the trap of brutal suppression, which the old world demanded. If you indulge, you end up a dry, exhausted, empty human being, always seeking the next sensation. And if you force yourself, if you drive yourself day after day, month after month, year after year to suppress your own nature, you end up as the same thing, a dry, harsh, brittle human being, a husk, just ashes. So, the problem is not which side to choose. The problem is the conflict itself. The real question is this: can one live a human life without a single battle, without this constant grinding conflict? Can one live without the extremes, which are the conflict? Can one live without the sensory demands on the one hand and the suppression of those sensory demands on the other? This is the only inquiry worth having. But to answer it, to even approach it, requires a very deep investigation into the entire problem of desire, of will, and of the biological urges themselves. It is not a simple thing. I asked at the end of our last talk whether we could live a life without conflict, and I suggested that this requires an investigation into the whole movement of desire. Now, I must ask you in all seriousness, do you really want to go into all that? This is not a rhetorical pleasantry. I'm asking genuinely because this is a very serious undertaking. It is not something to be merely listened to be catalogued as an interesting set of ideas. It's no good at all if you are just listening and planning to repeat what I say. That has no meaning, no vitality. I must ask if you are working, if your brain is as active, as intense as the speaker's. Are you inquiring, doubting, pushing, not just accepting, but looking at your own life, your own mind to find out? Because we are dealing with facts, the facts of our own existence. We see that conflict in humanity is increasing more and more, not less. And unless we understand very deeply the movement of desire, we will be forever trapped in this conflict. Now, what is our usual response to desire? The religions, as we've seen, have played havoc with us. They have said, you must suppress desire, you must control it, cut it off, transcend it. And this has become just another battle, another form of torture, another source of inward division and hypocrisy. You see what they are doing in the world. The religious and political ideologies, the divisions they create. It is all born from this same lack of self-understanding. So, suppression is not the answer. But what is the alternative offered by the modern world? Indulge, fulfill at any cost, at any price. You must have the fulfillment of your desire. We are driven by it. And if that drive is thwarted, we feel pain, a sense of frustration, of not being, of not fulfilling. So we chase it, whether it is the desire for success, the desire for money, the desire for sexual experience, the desire for excitement, for amusement. It's a tremendous burning urge, and we demand its immediate fulfillment. And even if you dress it up in noble terms, I have a desire for God, I have a desire for truth, I have a desire for understanding, it is still the same movement, is it not? It is still the I seeking to get something, to achieve, to become. So, please, let us look at it, not to condemn it, not to encourage it, but simply to understand its mechanism. What is desire? Where is it born? Let us trace it, shall we? You look out of the window, you look at a tree, you see the mountains beyond it, the valleys, and the extraordinary light upon a single leaf. You see the deep, rich colors of the earth. You see that enormous, unnamed beauty. What is that? That is sensation. It is the simple, direct, optical seeing, the perception. The light hits the eye, the nerve responds. It is normal, healthy, natural. You see a beautiful face, a man or a woman. You see a beautiful, sleek car. You see a marvelous painting in a gallery, perfectly lit. This is sensation. It is the response of a sensitive, living organism. If you didn't have this, you would be paralyzed, blind, deaf. So, sensation itself is clearly not the problem. But then, what happens next? Look at it in yourself, please. You see this thing. There is perception, there is sensation. What is the very next step that takes place? Thought comes in. Thought comes in and says, what a beautiful thing that is. Thought names it, labels it, judges it, compares it. And then, from that sensation, thought creates an image. Are you following this? This is a fact. It is not my theory. Sensation happens, and thought instantly creates an image out of that sensation. You see the mountain, and thought creates the image of the mountain, perhaps the memory of the last time you saw it, or the pleasure you felt. You see the beautiful car, sensation. Then thought comes in and creates the image of you in the car, you driving the car, the prestige it would give you. Sensation is not desire. Sensation is simply sensation. But when thought takes that sensation and creates an image, and the I, the self, identifies with that image, then at that moment, desire is born. Let us take a simple example from the old text. A woman sees a nice dress in a shop window. Sensation. She goes inside, she touches the material. Sensation. She tries it on, looks in the mirror. Then thought says, how beautiful I look in this. The moment thought does that, the I has been attached to the image, and desire is born. She must have it. Or a man sees a shirt, sensation. Thought says, that would look good on me. The image is created, and desire begins. This is the entire mechanism. It is the same process whether you are looking at a dress, a car, a person, or a political utopia. It is the same process when you look at someone's life on your social media feed. You see an image of travel, of success, of happiness, sensation. Thought immediately says, that is the life I should have. My life is poor in comparison. It has created an image, and now desire, which is also envy, frustration, conflict, is born. You are at war with what you are, in favor of an image of what you think you should be. Now, if this is the fact, if this is the mechanism, the question becomes clear. Can sensation and thought be kept apart? I'm not asking you to do this through will, through compulsion, through effort, because that is just another form of suppression, another conflict. The will saying I must not think is still thought itself, playing a trick. I am asking something much more subtle. Can there be a gap, an interval, a hiatus, so that sensation is allowed to be in its fullness, and thought does not immediately rush in to create the image and attach the I to it? Can you look at the mountain and just look? Can you see the beautiful face and just see its beauty without the immediate reaction of I want? To see this whole process as it happens requires a tremendous and extraordinary attention, a great quiet watchfulness, not a concentration which is exclusion, but an awareness that sees the whole movement, the seeing, the sensation, the first flicker of thought, the image making, the birth of desire. I have, in my life, seen some of the most beautiful things in the world. I have seen beautiful cars, beautiful houses, and palaces. I have lived in them. I have seen beautiful people. It is natural to look, to see the beauty of the earth and all that is in it. But it is possible to see all of this, to appreciate it completely, and never be identified with any of it. To never once have the inward movement that says, I wish I had that, or that is mine. This, you understand, is the true austerity. We talked about that word. It does not mean the harsh, dry, brutal suppression of a monk who tortures his body. That is a terrible, destructive thing. True austerity is this perception, this clarity, this simple, direct seeing, and this seeing, this watchfulness, is itself the only true discipline. The word discipline has been ruined, just like the word austerity. It has come to mean conformity, imitation, suppression, following a rule. But the root of the word discipline is desire, to learn. Therefore, true discipline is the act of learning from moment to moment. It is the act of learning about this whole structure of desire within yourself. It is not control. It is a state of learning, which is a state of immense clarity and love. A little while ago, I read a question that was sent in, and perhaps now we must turn to it, because it is not separate from anything we have been discussing. It is, in fact, the culmination of our entire inquiry. The question was, how is one to live on this earth without harm or destruction to its beauty, without bringing suffering and death to others? This is one of the most fundamental and profoundly important questions a human being can ask. It touches everything. It is not an abstract philosophical query. It is about our daily, actual life. It is about how we walk, how we talk, what we buy, how we think, and how we are in relationship with each other and with the planet itself. We see the harm, don't we? We see the appalling destruction of the earth's beauty, the poisoning of the rivers and the air, the tearing down of ancient forests, the extinction of species. And we see the suffering and death we bring to each other through our wars, our nationalistic pride, our religious divisions, and through our simple daily psychological cruelty. So, how is one to live differently? We must first see with absolute clarity why we do this. Why do we harm and destroy? The answer is not separate from our investigation into desire. It is the very same movement, the I that we have been examining, the self that is a bundle of memories, images, and desires. That is the root of all harm. When I desire, I must have. When I desire security, I build a wall, and you are on the other side of it. When I desire power for my nation, my tribe, my particular God, I am willing to bring suffering and death to your nation, your tribe, your God. This is the history of humanity, a river of blood fed by our ideologies, our beliefs, and our desires. It is the I that wants to be safe, to be permanent, that creates the division, and from that division, conflict is inevitable. And why do we destroy the earth's beauty? Is it not for the exact same reason? We have been looking at the mechanism, sensation, thought, image, and then desire. You see the beautiful car, you see the fashionable clothes, you see the promise of a bigger house, an easier life, endless entertainment. This is the culture of consumerism, which is nothing more than the culture of deified desire. And to fulfill that endless burning desire, we must pillage the earth. We must have the factories that pollute, the mines that scour the land, the oil wells that spill into the sea, all to feed this eye that wants more. We are so caught in the image of the good life, an image created by thought, that we are destroying the actual life, the earth itself, which sustains us. The desire that makes you want a new shirt you do not need is the very same identical energy that leads to the destruction of a forest. It is not a different problem. So, to live without harm, to live without destruction, means to live without the I, without the self, which is the center of this desire and this conflict. But how? This is the crucial point. You cannot decide to live without the I. You cannot make a new resolution, take a vow, or join a movement called living without the self. Why? Because the one who makes that decision, the one who takes that vow, that is still the I. It is just the I playing a new, more subtle, more spiritual game. It is thought creating a new image of the man who lives without harm. And now you are in conflict, trying to become that image. So you have not ended conflict at all, you have just changed its form. If you become a pacifist, you are now at war with the non-pacifist. If you become an environmentalist, you have a new identity, a new set of enemies. You have created a new us and them, and that is the very root of harm. The way to live without harm is not through an act of will, but through the act of seeing. It is to live with that quality of mind we were speaking of, that true austerity, that true discipline, which is the discipline of learning. It is to be aware from moment to moment of this whole structure, to watch in yourself without judgment, without condemnation, the arising of desire, to see the thought that says, I must have that, to see the flicker of anger, of envy, of nationalistic pride, to see the I asserting itself, wanting to be right, wanting to hurt another with a word. You do not suppress it, you do not fight it. You simply see it with a complete and total attention. This seeing, this awareness is the action. This is the great secret. We are used to thinking that we see a problem and then we must act to solve it. But here, the seeing is the total action. When you are totally, choicelessly aware of the movement of envy in your mind, when you see it without any motive, without wanting to get rid of it, in that light of pure attention, envy is not, it has nowhere to go. It withers. When you are completely aware of the impulse to say a cruel thing, in that space of awareness, the words do not form. When you are fully aware of the desire to consume, to possess, to acquire, you find yourself naturally, simply living a life of simplicity. You do not force yourself to be simple. You are simple because you are no longer driven by the unexamined engine of desire. This is the only way to live on this earth. It is not a system, not a path, not a goal you will one day achieve. It is a quality of attention now, and this answers the very first question that was asked, the question about human sexuality. Why did we make it a problem? Because thought came in and labeled it, judged it, condemned it. This is right, that is wrong. This is normal, that is deviant. This judgment is the harm. It is thought that brings the suffering. But when you can see the fact that this exists, that exists, and see it without the label, without the judgment, without the image from your sacred book or your tradition, then the problem dissolves. You are simply with what is, and to live with what is, without the distorting screen of the eye, is to live a life of peace. This is the answer. To live without harm is to live with this moment to moment, choiceless awareness of the I, the self, which is the root of all conflict, all sorrow, and all destruction. It is to have a mind that is constantly learning, and therefore silent, and therefore free. I hope this exploration has been useful. If these ideas resonate, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more inquiries into the nature of our minds.